A person I'm honored to have on our virtual seminar is our next guest. He is the President and COO of the largest Philippine generator of electricity from geothermal Energy Development Corporation, also called EDC. With over 40 years of geothermal experience, the company generates 42% of the country's renewable energy. With several geothermal power plants in the Philippines, EDC provides 62% of the country's totally installed geothermal capacity. With me here today, I'm honored to have the role model and pioneer in the geothermal industry, the President and COO of Energy Development Corporation and the President of Business for Sustainable Development. I'm happy to interview him, and his name, help me welcome, is Mr. Richard Tantoco. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. I'm looking forward to our fireside chat.
I do too. And I've heard, I was very official now when I introduced you, but I heard that you like to be called Ricky as well, correct?
Yes, in the Philippines, everyone has a shorter name.
Well, good. Then we know. It's basically the same here in Sweden, but it's very often not the same as your own name. Is that the same case in the Philippines? Yeah.
Yes, yes. Sometimes it's very, very far from the original.
Yeah. But not far from the original is what I introduced you with, correct? I mean, 40 years in the industry,
Correct.
it's really impressive. Can you tell us about the journey?
Yeah, just very briefly, EDC was born out of the energy crisis of the 1970s, particularly when the oil cartel OPEC began to raise prices. At that time, the Philippines was 100% dependent on oil imports, and we were running the country on diesel plants. So when that crisis happened, our government decided to explore geothermal resources, and thankfully, the government of New Zealand was very helpful towards the Philippines. They collaborated with us. They sent a grant, a drilling rig that the country kept, and they also sent their scientists. And in about 2 years since the development happened, we inaugurated a small 3-megawatt pilot plant in Tongonan, Leyte. And the rest, as they say, is history. We now have 13 geothermal facilities across the Philippines. 2 days ago, we inaugurated a new one. In about a year, we're going to be inaugurating another one. And then on top of that, we're building 2 more. So a total of 4 new geothermal plants in the next, more or less 5 years.
That's
and
amazing.
as you mentioned earlier, we today we light up. I tell children when I talk in schools that our company lights up 1 out of every 11 light bulbs in the whole country.
Well, that is truly amazing. Has it been, I mean, you're telling a story now, this has been going on for a long time. Has it been a struggle? I know that many countries are looking at you right now and trying to do the same type of journey.
Yes, it is quite a struggle, and what we've found is it takes a while for a framework for geothermal to take root. These are legal frameworks, permitting frameworks, community frameworks, and once that's in place, then it's easier for the industry to develop, right? But the challenging thing for us also in the Philippines, slight extra challenges. We tend to find the geothermal resources in very, very remote areas. And we don't have any government support with respect to building roads, building transmission lines, and it causes the development costs to go up slightly.
Mm-hmm. In order to, you said you don't get the help from the government in this sense. How do you handle those situations?
We essentially have to be very sharp with respect to the way we engineer our developments. We are now planning to drill in Indonesia. We have 2 new areas in the Philippines that are completely greenfield and need everything from roads to transmission lines to water utilities. So there's a lot of engineering study that goes on, and it's a lot of planning and a lot of surveying. And the more you front load the work, the better your engineering comes out, and the better you're able to manage your costs. But it takes time. It takes time to make geothermal happen.
Well, yeah, you have a rich history, but you are actually also still pioneering. I mean, I found a quote that inspired me very much: to forge collaborative pathways for a decarbonized and regenerative future. We need to work by elevating everything you touch. I think that this is a very high
Yes.
bar. How do you work with this?
Yes. Yeah, Christina, the whole world is in the last 10 years anchored on the keyword sustainability, right? Sustain, sustain, sustain. But if you look at the trajectory that our planet is on, it really is not headed in the right direction. So rather than just sustain the path we're on, we, during the pandemic, together with some of the members of our board, recrafted our mission for EDC, which is to forge collaborative pathways for a decarbonized and regenerative future. And three key words, right? We need to collaborate, we need to decarbonize, and we need to regenerate. And decarbonize is self-explanatory. And in terms of elevating, we don't just sustain, but we actually improve everything that we touch. And we look at five stakeholders, right? Our customers, our co-creators, which are our employees and suppliers, our communities, the environment, and our investors. Traditional framework, companies just focus on shareholder returns, right? And in our framework, we look at the five, all five as a holistic system.
I mean, it's interesting because what you did during the pandemic, when things went down, you actually increased the speed and started working with this. Has it gained traction yet? Is it up and running?
Yes, a lot of examples about elevating our different stakeholders during the pandemic. So let me just zero in on maybe one or two examples. So with respect to our communities, they needed to be able to identify whether or not COVID was spreading in the community, and they couldn't, right? And we also needed to be able to identify whether our employees were safe to go to and from work every day, or would one infect the rest, particularly those who have health risks. So what we did was we stepped into the shoes of government and we built testing centers across our facilities. And thousands of samples have been tested since the beginning of the pandemic. And for most of the communities we work in, it reduced the testing cycle from the day that they test to the time that they get the results from 10 days to 1 day. And it really improved overall safety in the community, right? So, elevating your stakeholders is about being there in their hour of need. I don't think I can justify to my board of directors that was a great investment with high returns. But I think the partnership with the community in their time of great need is something that we need to do as a member of the community. And I can give you examples across, right, across the different parameters. Maybe just a brief one, another one, like how do you elevate your customers? When we approach our customers, we tell them, fine, you have a bid and you're asking 5 suppliers to supply you energy. That's okay, we're going to bid. But we'd like to get into the factory, roll out sensors, and help you reduce your consumption. We, as a seller of electricity, want you ultimately to buy less. And we've done this for the largest battery manufacturer in the country, chip manufacturers, and they love it. They love the fact that we partnered, A, to sell them green energy, and then B, to lower their consumption.
I think it gives us a good example. I mean, in the sense you're helping them and they help you, and that's how you grow as an industry as all, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's that collaboration, right? Where, the old way of looking at things is I want to sell to this customer and I just want to sell the most at the highest price, right? But our view is the customer has to come out better
Yeah.
when they work with EDC. And that's what we're trying to accomplish every single day.
And to continue that conversation, because I also read that you actually want to collaborate even with your competitors, and this is quite interesting to sense. I don't think that that's what everybody keeps on saying, but can you tell us more about this? How do you think here?
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you a very real example, right? The Philippines is visited by 22 tropical cyclones a year. Some countries call it hurricane. In North America, some call it typhoons or cyclones, right? Last year, a major cyclone hit one of our assets, and interestingly, the cyclone passed in between our asset and our competitor's asset, 70 kilometers south of our competitor, 70 kilometers north of us, just exactly in the middle, right? But since we have been innovating for about 9 years on how to typhoon-proof our assets, and getting ready for a world where the maximum wind speeds are no longer 250 kph, but 350 kph, our assets are fairly resilient. But unfortunately, the ones of our competitors got completely destroyed, right? Flattened. And it'll take maybe 4-6 months if you can order the parts and then bring back your cooling towers and everything. So I called the CEO and I said, look, from our typhoon proofing efforts, we have a lot of strategic spares. They're located in bunkers. Tell me who my guys can contact in your facility. We will send you the spares. It will accelerate the time in which you get back in service. And it cut back the time that they were going to go back in service from 6 months to maybe 6 weeks. We think, if I'm not mistaken, we sent about 18 huge 18-wheeler truckloads of spare parts to them, help them even get their assets back, right? Now, this customer is very interesting. This competitor is interesting because when we go for auctions with customers, we all bid. We beat each other on price. But again, our view is they're generating clean energy, and every kilowatt hour that they are operating, that they generate, right? Every unit of energy that they produce is 1 unit of coal less that we have to fire, and tons and tons and tons of carbon emissions less. So we helped. We helped our competitors, and we're very open to do that. And we did the same. We did the same with our customers who were affected by a cyclone last December. We won a contract. They're not our customer until 2025, but we approached them and we said, look, you were really badly hit. We're not going to sell a kilowatt hour to you until 2025, but what can we do to help? And they said, we need generator sets. I said, okay, we'll send over 40 gen sets. What else do you need? What else do you need? We need linemen. So we sent our contractors to go and help the customer. We'll have a relationship maybe in about 3 years' time. But now is their hour of need. So I'd rather help today rather than help only when they're our customer, right? You build trust first and become transactional later on.
I think that is really inspiring to hear. And I also think that, I mean, you're really connecting to the greater good. You said, I mean, if you can provide renewable energy, we need to help because we are all in this together in order to make sure to give ourselves a better and more balanced and more resilient world, right?
Yeah.
On that note, I mean...
And Christina, sorry, maybe just to add, right? You do all of this. It's in the company newsletter. We have town halls. I tell them what we're doing. And it's not surprising that when we hired an international consulting firm, they did an employee engagement survey, and our overall engagement score was 99%.
Wow.
And according to this survey, this is the single highest score they've seen both in the power and utility space as well as globally. They have never seen a score this high, right? Because our employees, when they work, they link it to their daily purpose.
Yeah.
So you elevate a competitor, employees are happy. You elevate a customer, employees are happy. You just really need a lot of transparency and communication along the way.
And I mean, in the end, you elevate the employees as well because they feel proud and they produce better and give more into their daily work. So everybody in the end of the cycle is actually benefited from this way of working.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a virtuous cycle, right?
It is definitely. Listen, I want to take the opportunity to talk to you because recently you called for innovation and reinvention now that the industry has taken an unfavorable twist. So I know that this was a quest to all of the geothermal society, and we have them here today. Can you elaborate on this? What is it that you hope for?
Right. Yeah. Geothermal, when you develop geothermal, it's very costly, right? And that results in challenges in making geothermal happen. And we also tend to be a little bit sleepy as an industry because we're always looking inside, right? And we're dominated by sometimes scientists who are proud of accomplishments and like delivering technical papers. So a few years ago, I attended a geothermal conference, and the night before we had a dinner just for the CEOs. And one of the guys beside me said, "Hey, I'm presenting a paper tomorrow." And I said, "Oh, good on you. What's it about?" And he goes, "It's actually the same paper I delivered 5 years ago." And that really made me think hard. And I said, if that's happening,
Yeah.
that's happening to our industry, we're gonna go nowhere because solar and wind are innovating at breakneck speed and they're lowering the cost curve, they're improving performance, right? And my view is the geothermal industry, we need to use our facilities as laboratories, open, collaborative spaces. So let me give you an example, Christina, right? When we clean a well, a geothermal well, right? We usually send the drilling rig and then we put some chemicals into the well and then it's mechanically cleared. Sometimes you use a rig, sometimes you don't. But we send these chemicals. And we've been doing this for 20 years, 20, 30 years. Right? Same formula, same procedure, right? I had breakfast once with the owner of the largest chemical company in the Philippines because they're known for innovation. And I said, look, I'm going to give you a challenge. I want you to come to the site, bring your people, and cut our costs down, right? And they were actually able to bring the costs down after several months of working with us, reformulating, and then coming up with the correct mixture, the correct chemical for well cleaning. They were able to drop the cost by about 60%.
Wow.
And what are the benefits? Lower cost, right? Less imports into the country because we used to order from 2 international suppliers, better foreign exchange for the country, preservation. And we now have an innovation which we can share.
Wow.
And it's 60% cheaper, right?
What?
So,
So
yeah, I call for everyone to innovate.
yeah. And I know that, I mean, the world basically looks at EDC for the next technological breakthrough because you have a history of doing that. Uh, what, what, what about like, what do you see is the next technological breakthrough we need to do? Where do you see that coming?
Yeah, Christina, for me, I look at it sort of very simply, right? We need to, as an industry, attack both the revenue side and the cost side, right? And eliminate risks, eliminate waste. So the example I gave you earlier of making our facilities more resilient to typhoons. What did we do there? We worked with a company in Australia and another one from the US. And we said we want to engineer the first cooling towers on the planet Earth that can withstand 330, 350 kilometers per hour. What was the answer? It can't be done, right? And we said, no, it can be done. We will use new materials, we'll use new technology, we'll use new designs. And after a while, Project Neptune was born. And today, all of our sites are resilient to typhoons. And that's good for our insurance companies. It's good for us. It's good for the consumer. So I really think it's a matter of saying that it can be done and insisting that the innovation can happen.
So, so what would be your advice to the geothermal community watching this now? What is like, what can we learn from this? What do you think? What is your word to them?
Yeah, let's look together, the first thing I want to say is together, let's collaborate. For example, a CEO of a geothermal company in the U.S. reached out recently and said, "Look, we've been having this problem. We keep on bringing consultants in, and it can't be fixed. Can we work with you?" And I said, "Okay, fine. Let's work together." So I linked them with our head of operations and technology development, right? So this kind of collaboration, we need to establish this, not as a sleepy association, but something that's alive and vibrant and very keen on attacking problems and attacking opportunities, right? So three things: focus on costs, focus on revenues, and focus on risks. And the other thing that I wanted to say is we as a geothermal industry need to start down the path of continuous improvement. So in EDC, we have a continuous improvement program that starts all the way to the rank and file, all the way to the contractors, right? And this year, I was reviewing our CI performance year to date. We have implemented 892 projects as of end March in one quarter, right? And the future benefit of that is in excess of 80 million US dollars.
Wow.
Reduced downtime, increased uptime, reduced costs. And we're already in the thousands, right? So it's a question of setting that culture and getting it to roll. You need a very strong champion, and you need what I call a forcing function, right? So when we launched the CI initiative a few years ago, I said every single employee starting from me has to deliver 5 CI activities this year. And if you don't, your performance rating is automatically does not meet expectations, right? You should have heard the uproar. Oh my God, people were so upset. It's unfair. But the moment you lay down the forcing function and the whole organization begins to digest it, everyone is now walking around with, these shades that say improvement, 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 lower cost, quicker. And before you know it, it's now a way of life. Right?
Well,
So I'd like the whole industry to walk down this path of continuous improvement.
I think that that's an amazing thing to send to the geothermal community. We'll definitely bring it with us. Put on your glasses for improvement and look for them. I love that actually. On that sense, because you've actually said you've recognized the role of the private sector also, and I know that you're also into the thoughts and discussions of how to continuously force them to take the responsibility here now. Would you like to elaborate on this one as well?
Yeah, I think us in the private sector have a very important role, right, with respect to the public. We need to make the public understand geothermal, and I'm very thankful for this call and this discussion, right? And we need to do that with our customers. We need to do that with the community. We need to do that from a revenue standpoint. We need to do it from a safety standpoint and an exposure to risk standpoint. But the information in geothermal really needs to be brought out. And thank you to Baseload Capital for what you are doing. And in fact, I would love, Christina, at some point when it's safer for everyone to travel, that we do a forum like this with 6, 7, 8 geothermal CEOs, and let's just exchange ideas and connections, and create a much stronger, much healthier, much more resilient industry. I really think our time has come, right? Our time has come. In some of the geothermal projects that we're executing right now, we have forward sold carbon credits. Right? The moment those plants operate, someone else will own 60% of the carbon credits for 10 years. And in exchange for that, we receive the cash up front. Our time has come. People really, really want to buy clean and renewable energy, right? And just last night, Christina, we've been involved in this bid for one of the top brands in Korea. They have a huge facility here. 55 megawatts, which will take up 1 unit of 1 geothermal plant. And they had been running a bid, putting coal against us, and we said, look, We're here 24/7. We're clean, and this is what we're prepared to do. We want to help you become more efficient. And after like 4 months of thinking about this, they awarded the contract to us because they want to be able to tell
Congratulations.
their consumers that it's clean energy. So our time has come. We just have to work together and make the industry a lot more dynamic.
I would love to collaborate with you, Ricky, on that topic. Let us definitely come back with that idea to put this kind of forum together to discuss and to make sure that we can give back to all the people who want to get the information and get inspired in order for us all to tap into the possibilities that are there present before us right now.
Yes.
As a
Thank you, Christina.
as an end, I think it's a bit. I love this story of you. Actually, I know you have another dream that you want to plant 1 million Philippine native trees in 5 years. How is that going?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's going very well, Christina. I started it during the pandemic. I went around the communities here because I have a farm several hours north of Metro Manila. So I moved out of the city during the pandemic, and I interacted with my community, and so many people did not have work. So I said, look, I can serve as a bridge, right? Why don't I finance an operation where we all go out, collect seedlings, pot them, put them in potting bags, nurture them every single day, and then once the pandemic is over or close to over, I'm going to take care of selling it all over the country, right? And we focused on the top 50 or so endangered Philippine hardwoods. So I have 55 people working for me. I'm like an office giving a salary every Saturday. We have put together, as of now, about 600,000 trees.
Wow.
And we've shipped these endangered trees as far south as 7 hours away and as far north as about 3 hours away, right? So I'm moving the seedlings out in people. Unfortunately, I'm a dinosaur, so I don't know how to do this on social media. So I need to ask my children to help me. But even without that, there's a lot of demand, right? And yeah, I mean, it's been 2 years and we're at 600,000. I hope for 1 million in 5 years. I'm pretty sure I'll exceed that. And maybe keep this going, right? It's good for the community, good for the planet, good for all the people around the Philippines to preserve our heritage, which are these trees that are very close to extinction.
I think it just serves me with another example, Ricky, of how impressive your thinking is. It's so much extending the work you actually do as a president of EDC, in a sense. It is so much more than doing one job. You're actually giving back to society and to your country in that sense. It's inspiring, really, to hear. And I know that this inspires also the young people. And we have a generation coming now that really want to work purpose-driven. So I'm sure they will sign up for EDC coming in the future.
Yes, thank you. I hope so. I hope so. Come and work with us. Do summer internships. Learn about geothermal. We're very open.
Great. Ricky, do you have any last words you would like to say to the people watching now before we summarize our interesting talk?
Yeah. Just a brief message, right? Our planet really needs the geothermal industry right now for obvious reasons, which I will no longer specify. And there is strength in numbers. There is strength in collaboration. And I welcome sharing of whether it's best practice, today's best practice, or yesterday's best practice, because there's a better one now. I welcome the sharing and the engagement so that we can all move forward and grow the size of our industry. Right? It takes a little bit of effort, but it's absolutely worth it. So let's all collaborate because we don't want to get to the finish line. EDC's there and no one else is beside us. Let's get to the finish line and let's all work together. And Christina, what this also means is it doesn't matter to me who wins the most awards, who wins the recognition. That to me doesn't count. I know it drives the people in our communications department a little crazy that I'm not chasing awards, but I really would like substance to exceed form. Right? It's the substance, what we're doing, how we're working. Did we generate 10 innovations that are now being used in more than one site on this planet? Right? Are we helping each other out? Let's measure ourselves on that basis, not on the basis of awards.
Those will be famous last words, Ricky. Thank you very much for inspiring us, and thank you for inspiring all the audience watching this. If you're a dinosaur, I will make sure to blast this interview on every social media so that as many people as possible can take a part of that. So thank you very much. We're honored to have you here. Looking forward to continue on that collaboration. I will be in touch, you know that.
Yes, thanks, Christina, and thank you so much to Alex and to Baseload Capital.
The future is now.